people, but we're not doing enough, I don't think, as Black people. This is going to be air. Um, I'm not going to live broadcast this yet. I'm going to push this out later. But I want to thank everyone for listening to Bridges Live. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. We're having Miss Meosha Hudson and then Kevin Adolfo. And they're going to introduce themselves. We're going to talk about who we are. You guys know who I am. But please, Kevin, please introduce yourself because Meosha's been on. She's an old hand at this.
I'm a regular guest.
You're a regular guest. But Kevin, please introduce yourself.
Certainly. My name is Kelvin Ampofo. I am the second district representative of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. The second district is comprised of 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. And it's my responsibility to have oversight of all the chapters, all the brothers of Omega Psi Phi that live and operate within those 5 states.
You know, I almost did a hoot and holler for when you said New York. I almost jumped out of my seat when you're like, Bronx is in the house,
Boogie down, boogie down.
Fuck all those niggas from Brooklyn. This is my wait a minute, this is my show. I can do anything I want.
Oh, okay.
But really, I'm a Bronx cat. That's what we are. That's what we do. White, Gun Hill Boulevard. So, but when you talk about Omega, for those of the people who don't know, talk about the history of what the Omega Psi Phi has done.
Certainly.
And why you joined.
Certainly. So Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated was founded in 1911, November 17th, 1911 to be specific, on the campus of Howard University. Certainly, 3 undergraduates at the time with their professor saw keenly the necessity to start such an organization. My walks through the fraternity, I entered through Omicron Epsilon Chapter, which is Bethune-Cookman College down in Daytona Beach, Florida, in the spring of 1998. Obviously, some famous Omega men. You can start from the Michael Jordans. You can go to certainly Meosha's favorite, Dr. Charles Drew, all the way to the present day, Steve Harvey. The list goes on. And so our mission, our charge is obviously our 4 cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. We see keenly the need to ensure that our people within our communities are uplifted through various community service action, social action, and community service projects.
So when we talk about our people, and people know I'm a member of the 100 Black Men of Maryland. I've been a Mason for 34 years. When we talk about our people, we talk about Black people. We're talking about African Americans here in these United States. And we have to say it that way because there is a significant difference between Black Americans and other Americans, and who identifies ourselves with helping our community uplift, mentor through squalor, hatred, prejudice, and sickness. It's like we've been married to this country with sickness and health, right? Through sickness and health, we shall stand together. That's how we as Black men and family members and fraternities have tried to build this nation with our own hands, blood, sweat, and tears. And yet, we are still pushed and pushed and now hunted. We've always been hunted. And yet we still want to make the better of these United States. Do you find that to be true?
I agree with you. I think one of the things is that, unfortunately, although time has evolved, some of us have not. And so some of the same challenges and some of the same issues that our ancestors dealt with, unfortunately, it still exists today. And I'm talking about obviously not the norm, not the obvious that we know of as far as the racism and just the flat out racism. Uh, I'm talking about even us as people. Um, Instead of helping or instead of being happy for each other, we tend to still, hate on each other. We still tend to, I mean, we got work to do. We got work to do as people.
So we're doing the work. That's why isn't that what is that one of the reasons why you joined the Omegas? Because off air before we came on air, you were talking about how you were also a Mason also.
I am. I am.
So standing on the square did you become a Mason, then you become an Omega, or which one came first?
So Omega came first in college, and Ionic 17 Lodge came afterwards, after college.
So Masonry became first for me, Prince Hall, and traveling around the world, and it just seemed not that we always thought that our fraternities opened doors, but what it did, it embraced us in our education of furthering education. That's what it did, and it allowed us to see, like, oh man, you too. You kind of end up saying a lot of that. Man, you too. So, and here now that being on the board of the American Heart and the Red Cross in partnership with Meosha, and Meosha is going to talk now about why she joined the Red Cross and this fight for sickle cell, because this has got a circle event to it. This has got a still that we are still trying to uplift, educate, mentor, like a marriage through sickness and in health, our relationship with Black America. And this is why we do the work we do. Meosha?
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. So I want to just set the record straight that yes, Dr. Charles Drew is definitely one of my favorite Omega men in the world and on the planet, but I'd have to put Mr. Kelvin and Ampofo in that category, and Senator James Clyburn, he's one of my favorite humans. And then I think I told Kelvin this offline, I'm a big fan of Obi St. Preux, who is one of my favorite fighters. I'm a big MMA fan, so I just wanted to throw that out there just to be clear. But I oftentimes brag about Dr. Charles Drew as if I was an Omega woman, as if there's such a thing. But I'm so inspired by the legacy and the framework that was laid, and the thought of the Black excellence from that period on up until today. We continue to blaze trails, and so I would have to say that what inspired me to transition my Red Cross career into this particular aspect of our mission was because it was an opportunity to really focus on the Black Americans and the African Americans and Black individuals in general as it relates to having access to blood products and understanding intimately what it means when that is not available. And so I saw an opportunity to take my activism to some extent to rally for equality and inclusion and align that with this mission. And so one of the reasons that I was so excited to meet Kelvin was because one thing I know about civic organizations is that they're rooted in community service. I mean, they are founded out off of the principles of giving back and continuing to lay the framework for the others behind them to come up and continue that work. The work doesn't stop. And so that's why I'm here. I am passionate about the overall mission of the Red Cross, and I am gung-ho about my opportunity to really make an impact in the organization in this way. There's a huge need for it, and I think it's so complex, it really does take the right person that understands the dynamics and the capacity of the potential that we have here, and that's me. So it's an honor to be in this position. I respect and love the American Red Cross so much because it is one of the most consistent and I would have to say committed organizations that I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of as it relates to carrying out our mission by any means necessary. And our mission was heard in a big way during COVID. And as if Black and Brown individuals weren't hurt enough with COVID, there are inner crises within those particular realms as it relates to patient care. And so we often times forget about infrastructure and focus on the crisis at hand. And we can't survive or thrive like that. We have to be multifaceted. We have to be able to eat and walk at the same time. And that's kind of what it's like in the world of the Red Cross, which is why we couldn't say, oh, COVID's here, everybody just go home and calm down. We'll see what happens down the road. No, the work had to continue. And so we had to mitigate our measures to make it happen. And that meant going back to the drawing board when we realized how many patients with sickle cell disease had suffered even more, not only because they were vulnerable due to their immune system and having a disease, but now the blood donors were not available, particularly the Black and Brown blood donors just pretty much fell off the earth for a lot of reasons.
Well, off air, Kelvin and we were talking about how I personally, out of the words of my mouth, I don't think people are doing enough, whether it be with organizations, in an organizations, people have joined fraternities, organizations all around the world. And I don't think they're doing enough. I don't think they're stepping out. I don't think they're putting in the work. I think they're happy to belong to something, but they're not doing enough because we're dying. We're dying because of sickle cell. We're dying because we don't have enough Black donors. I mean, the statistics of Black donors is absolutely atrocious.
And you know, I like to put that in perspective because we have to remember that we only make up 13% of the population. And there's going to be a tiny portion of the overall donor pool that comes from Black and African Americans. However, only 3% of the population donates. So I want to put that in perspective. I want to be clear that out of that 3%, only 1% of that are of Caucasian ethnicities. So it's not like anybody is just knocked down, woohoo, let's all donate blood. That's why it's an ongoing, constant effort. But we see a significant decline in Black and African Americans because it was already a small number to begin with. And let's not forget, Caucasians make up 76% of the population, and they do make up 86% of the blood donor pool. We make up less than 1% of the blood donor pool, but you know, we need to continue to contribute to the donor pool because we have conditions like sickle cell disease and other conditions that really rely on an ethnic match because of how extensive blood transfusion therapy is. So there's room for everybody to do better, but we certainly are in a position to do better. And we have the capacity to do better now. And that's where these key partnerships come in because it will take a collective effort. There's no one group that can make the heavy lift on their own.
No, and I told you this before, Meosha, and this is not nothing new said to you, but I think this is the original Black on Black crime. I mean, this is Black on Black crime. If you don't donate, you're literally killing another Black person.
I mean, you can get that graphic with the analogy or you know, using that as a metaphor, but I think even if we look at Black on Black crime, a lot of that is due to lack of resources and lack of education. Like, let's also once again let's just be clear, because I that's a whole nother world outside of the Red Cross where I see those conversations quite a bit, and it all boils down to lack of resources and lack of understanding. And
so Kelvin, do you think it's lack of resources, or do you think it's lack of education, or are we not shouting from the mountaintop?
No, it's certainly a combination of the lack of education and also education meaning awareness, right? I also believe that, unfortunately, as I alluded to earlier, right, some of us are still operating and living and the past. Meaning, if they don't see a benefit for themselves, then they're not inclined to participate. So we have to get out of this "what's in it for me" mentality. I love the Red Cross, and when I was there with you and Meosha, we were talking about T-shirts, but the fact of the matter is, it shouldn't take a gift card. It shouldn't take a T-shirt for me to want to save lives, help save lives.
Right.
And so we just got to continue to advocate. We're certainly doing it on our part. Uh, I send out monthly messages to the brothers in all 5 states, and I remind them every month of two things in particular. Number one, Miosha's other favorite fraternity brother, Senator Clyburn. Because of him, his leadership, what he did in bringing us together and making the successful campaign victory for President Biden and Vice President Harris, number one. Number two, I encourage the brothers every month to donate blood. And it's just an awareness piece. The fact now that this age that we live in now with technology, it's been fantastic. I see now in the app, I see the stages. I see when they collect it.
Right.
I see when they package it. I see when and most importantly, that fifth stage, I see that, boom, I saved 3 lives. Man, that's amazing. So I think the more people understand that what they're doing is actually for somebody else and potentially could be somebody that looks like them,
Right.
that goes a long way. So we're just gonna keep pushing. We're just gonna keep working with Meosha and the Red Cross, and we're just gonna make sure we keep sending the message out to get it done.
Now, Meosha, we know in Maryland there's the blue tag. Matter of fact,
Yes,
I have a tag.
the blue tag. Do you have one there? Look at that. Yes, yes. This is not available nationwide yet. Every region has a way of determining those units, but in our area, in our region, we do have what we call the blue tag program. And usually what I do, I send out emails leading up to the blood drive reminding donors, hey, ask about the blue tag. You could be the match for a patient in need with sickle cell disease. And so the blue tag allows us to know immediately as that blood comes into the lab that those units are high priority for a sickle cell patient. So they're escalated and they're kind of put in a category that is really, really time sensitive because of the nature of that disease and how often, patients are getting transfused on a regular basis, 10, 15, 20 units of blood a month. And so we see what it looks like when those bins are empty. And my heart just really sinks. It's a very sad thing because, human beings are on the other end of that waiting for that blood. So
now Black people got to ask. Black people got to ask if they're not because Kelvin, he talks to so many other states. They have to say, can you tag this?
That's right.
For one of my sickle cell brothers and sisters.
Exactly. You can say, I would like to allocate my donation for a patient with sickle cell disease. And we'll test it because we can't put every unit of blood, we can't blindly test every unit of blood. The immunohematology aspect of what we do in terms of the lab and the processing, it's astronomical.
It is.
But we have to do that because we're the number one, we provide more blood for the healthcare industry than any other organization in the world. So for us, our standards are rigorous and we have to go through that extreme testing. So adding another layer of testing is very important, and we can be efficient with that testing by knowing right off the bat, these donors have identified themselves as Black or African American. We get a lot of people that choose not to answer that question, and that puts us in a very difficult position because now we can't just go blindly testing that blood if they haven't done one of two things: indicate their race, or two, requested that blue tag. So even if they don't get that blue tag, if they are willing to indicate, that's why we call it check your race. Race, is important when you are trying to have a more intimate blood match, just like blood type. You might be A positive, and if I'm A negative, I cannot donate my blood to an A positive person because it's not a match. So it's like people are like, I thought blood was blood. We all bleed red. Yes. But just like getting a kidney transplant or an organ transplant, there has to be very expensive matching procedures. And for us,
And
that
I'm
allows us
positive.
to go through that extra testing if we know this person is a candidate for a sickle cell patient.
I'm O positive. Kelvin, what are you?
I am A positive.
Oh, look at that.
But I can't donate.
No.
I had malaria.
Uh,
So, which is funny because sickle cell is supposed to stop malaria. So how does that happen for a Black person like me who got malaria? What happened through the transfer?
You were not carrying the trait. That's why you got it. And 1 in 13 Black and African Americans carry the sickle cell trait.
Mhm.
And that's the trait that kind of was just passed down through evolution. It was meant to protect us because by nature, we are from a malaria-ridden portion of the world. And so that's why you're going to find people that have descendants from Africa or Turkey or Greece or anywhere in the Mediterranean, South and Central America, and India. Those are all regions in the world where this situation that we're dealing with today is fairly common. But in the United States, because of the overall journey of how the African American came to be, you can take the African out of Africa, but you can't take the components of the blood out. And so that's why this continues to be here. That's our blood history. It's a part of our story. It's a part of our lineage. And so now we understand that trait hurts us now in terms of the ability to have it protect you, because we're not in a malaria zone anymore. So just like any other thing, over time, it can either help you or it can be a hindrance.
Kelvin, we always talk about mentoring, educating our people throughout the country, throughout the world, and touching lives. And yet we think we've educated enough, but until we meet that one brother or sister that says, I did not know that. So as I have felt, we cannot assume that people know. We have to open our mouths and say. Is that what you found also?
Absolutely. And the problem is for those of us that are doing this every day, it becomes very easy for us to say, we've been there, we've done that. But we've got to continue. We've got to continue to open more doors. We've got to continue to find new neighborhoods. And we've got to continue to talk to more people. The more people that we talk to, unfortunately, at times it makes us think that we're getting the job done. But no, we've got to keep pushing, because for every person that we talk to, there's still another 10 or 20 people that have no idea about the impact, whether it's giving blood, whether it's anything that you're doing to further push the community, to ensure, especially the community of our people, to make sure that they're educated, that they're aware of how they can donate or what the possibilities are to impact lives. We just have to make sure that we continue talking to people, and that every day it should be somebody new that we're striving to educate on this very critical and very much needed resource.
I know this week when people hear this, whenever they see this, whenever they like this, whenever they share this week was a week that George Floyd's murderer got convicted. Okay, I'm not even going to mention his name. Matter of fact, I had said to myself, I'm not even going to give him my voice. I'm not even going to mention his name. But the feeling of education and helping our people, I want to give you a take on where do both of you stand on what is next for us and this, whether it be whether it be the Red Cross, whether it be something private. What do you think this is? What's our next move, Kelvin?
In particular to
it doesn't matter, and I don't want to box you.
Okay, got you.
I don't, because they're so, like our hands are, I always say we have a fist, but we have a lot of fingers. So there's a lot of branches that we must touch.
Got you.
We really do.
The next thing that I believe in no particular order is this. We have to continue to be ready for tomorrow. And what I mean by that is this.
I love that.
What I mean by that is this. We know in a couple of years, we're going to have elections again, right? So we have to not wait until election time. We need to do things now. So whether that's voter registration, voter education, again, continue to talk to people, continue to educate, but don't wait. Do it now. Every day it's got to be something. Uh, I believe, Steve Harvey said it best when he said, you know, I don't, uh, I don't wait. I have to hustle every day. So even when I think I'm there, I'm not. I got to keep going. So we can never get to a point where we think or we feel that we've arrived. We got to continue to keep pushing. Education, voter registration, and so that we are continually making a path towards the impact for the future. I believe too many times we think that once we've gotten somewhere, that we've arrived, and so we stop. We have to keep going.
Meosha, I tell you, you have done some amazing work at here at the Red Cross. Just maybe your presence alone, maybe because your skin color, maybe because it's your voice, maybe because it's your passion. And I personally don't care because I love you because you're a human being. But you are moving valleys and rivers in where you are talking and standing. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dyer. And I'll just add to Kelvin's very well put together point about next steps. No matter what we're referring to, I do believe unify, organize, and mobilize. I think those are the pillars that we have to maintain our focus on, because even in what we're doing with the closing the sickle cell gap, that is going to take unification, collaboration. It's going to take multiple individuals unifying their platform, because there is power in number. The more of us are united behind this mission, the louder it becomes. And we have to ultimately put our money where our mouth is, and we have to mobilize these ideas into action. I'll leave you with this quote. One of my favorite president said, change will not come if we continue to wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And that starts with our decision to host a blood drive, our decision to be bold enough to ask those around you to donate. And it's not that we're cutting people off. Some people just probably can't donate blood, but we won't know if we don't ask. We have to put our best foot forward, because when you commit to a blood drive, you have made the commitment to save lives. And that is not something that I take lightly. And I don't think anyone should take lightly, because the impact that you have as a leader in the community with collecting blood, it's monumental. And there are human beings on the other end of that actually have been given the gift of life. So until we unify, organize, and mobilize, it's kind of difficult to make big change.
So here's a tough question for both of us and me, and I ask myself this every day. 13% of the population, we open our mouths, right? So if we say 13% of our population is Black and African Americans, but only 5% are the ones that are talking, and only 1% is actually the ones that are doing, how can we take sickle cell to the next stage? It's collaboration. Because outside of Black America, I'm not sure if non-Black Americans care about sickle cell. Is it because they don't know that it's important, or they don't know it's important to us? Which one, Kelvin?
Yeah, I obviously I'm going to say Meosha's the expert on this, but I'm going to guess and say they just don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah,
and that's the reason why, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so again, as we continue to talk to each other, and as we continue to educate, and even just podcasts like this to just get the word out to let people know, if we can make somebody just inquire, if we can make somebody just ask the question, well, what is sickle cell? So that they can hear about it and learn about it and know about it, then I think that helps us get to the point of getting this thing addressed.
We have some collaborations, Meosha, coming up, and without letting the cat out of the bag, or the bag in the cat, or however phrase you want to put it, is it possible, not hopeful, is it possible we take it to the national level?
everything's possible.
and,
I
and
think
here she runs again, people. And our next governor is.
we are the ones that have to show up and show out. What I cannot do is go to national and say this is going to happen, and then we have not shown through our actions and our results here within our region that is possible. So collaboration is key, and I'm excited about the collaborations that we are continuing to develop and grow, like with Omega Psi Phi, and then using platforms that are equally and just as large, because we need those voices. You know, I've reached out to Senator Jill Carter. You know, her team wants to get behind this. I've reached out to Delegate Shanika Henson. We've got these individuals, influential, locally elected officials that will have to get on board, and they are ready to get on board. So I think we're doing the grassroots work now, but when we come back to the table a year from now, we're going to be very pleased and grateful and excited at the results. But we have to start somewhere, and we're starting now. And I think the education and outreach, you can't have one without the other. They are together, and we'll continue to push and unify with platforms that are willing to make those bold asks, like, hey, we need you on board. Not just saying, hey, donating blood is great, but you need to host a blood drive if you have the ability to do so. And you need to encourage those in your immediate circle to support you by donating. And so one thing that I'll say, because a lot of people, they feel overwhelmed. They're like, well, that just seems like a lot. It's not. It's a lot more intimidating it sounds a lot more intimidating than it is. Let me just say that. It's a well-oiled machine of systems that once we get support, like you saw firsthand, you both saw at St. John's Catholic Church, it was phenomenal, and it was a coming together of everyone. We had all hands on deck, but what was the most important factor at that blood drive was that you saw a good representation of Black and African American donors, which was very inspiring. So I think the more we hold our local leaders accountable to give back to the community in this way, the more likely we are to be able to take the framework that we're developing here and put it on the national platform.
You know, I'm tired of seeing blood spilled in the streets. And if we can put our bloods in a bank where it can help others live, I think that's something that is synonymous. That is something that means so much, because we know where our blood is being spilled. So have a choice and make a decision to save a life with your blood instead of it being taken. Before we close out, your chapters are doing some amazing work. I want to say thank you, and I'm glad to have you on my show, Bridges Live. But more importantly, I'm glad to call you a friend and a brother in life, because this is it's about, like Meosha said, it's about those connections. It's about that brotherhood. It's about that life, and it's about moving forward. Only together we'll survive. Because if they separate us, they got us.
And I think that's been part of the issue why we haven't seen the type of shift that we need, because we're seeing so many small groups here and there, pockets of folks trying to make a change, but we realize that we have to collaborate and unify and join forces so that we can make big change.
And we know people get scared when we join forces.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. And I do want to just also say that it's not that non-Black Americans don't want to help, because I have to say the organizations that I've reached out to that are traditionally Caucasian organizations, they want to support, so much so that I've had to say, well, let me first make sure I get, you know, the other organizations that could support this behind it. You know, I've got plenty of organizations that are ready to provide space and locations just because of the nature of what my ask has been to those organizations. And I've been very clear in the need for a diverse blood supply and the unique role that they could play by providing us with the platform of space. And then that gives me the opportunity to work with organizations that have the capacity to make a huge impact and kind of provide opportunities in the community for them to run the blood drive. Like, hey, I've taken that part off your plate. We've got a space. Now I just need you to get the folks in. It's like folks could plan a party, right? Folks could plan all kinds of events and get people out. And we need to apply those same measures when we are trying to fill up a blood drive. We really have to pull out all the stops.
Kelvin, what's next for you, your chapter? You have blood drives coming yourself, but you also got other things coming up. What do you got?
So right now we're in the process. Obviously, we continue every at the last Wednesday of every month. We continue COVID-19 updates. We've got our brothers that are doctors, our brothers that work closely with the White House on the COVID-19 task force. So they provide updates, letting us know what's happening with the government as we continue to deal with this pandemic. We have our social justice committee that's continuing to ensure that we are educated, we are informed about what is going on, but most importantly, the action steps. What are we going to do to make progress towards change? Doesn't happen overnight, but we've got to take the necessary steps to make sure that we are heading in the direction of making change. And then certainly working with our young people, our mentorship programs, they continue virtually. We also are getting ready to get our kids back to school for the fall. The discussion has come up as it relates to vaccination. Obviously, Maryland, now if you're 16 or older, the vaccine is available. So just continuing to make sure that our people are educated and aware of what's happening around us so that we can continue to move forward.
And Meosha, the Red Cross and the movement you're doing, you're all over the place. You travel from one state to the next.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon and where are you next? Do we got to put like a GPS tracker on you? Like, is it find Meosha in a book? So,
Well, right now, the next big thing on my plate is the beginning of a very, I would have to say, exciting collaboration that is on its way. It's in the zygote phase, and as of tomorrow, it's going to be in the second trimester because we're having some planning meetings, and we are uniting major platforms. All I'm going to say, might be some professional athletes involved in that, but we've got people that are ready to come to the table. We have local leaders that have been doing the work, and now they have an opportunity to partner with a national platform like the American Red Cross, and we're going to take it to the next level. I will also say we have a really huge project going on. It's called the Hbcu Challenge, and it starts in the month of June. It's called the 16-day challenge. We have all the HBCUs, well, not all, because we were very select in the HBCUs, and it's called the 16-day HBCU Challenge. And of course, it's rooted, Howard University is kind of like the heart of it. And we're really excited about, that's an opportunity to really lay and plant the seeds in the youth, the young folks at the universities and the folks in the community to see this is what the historically Black colleges and universities are doing to help get behind the need to raise awareness behind this. And then out of that, throughout the fall, we're going to have a series of blood drives behind it. So I'm really excited. Big things are coming.
when we talk education, I am a research knucklehead, and we have lost this year alone in 2020 4 million Black and brown boys in education that will not have a senior high school diploma. So that's just 4 million across the country. We also lost 1,000 people with sickle cell who have passed because they could not get blood. These information should not scare you. It should incite you to a fire that says, not on my watch, not anymore now that I know. And I think that's why when Kelvin and I agree, we talk about education. So I want you to go, now that you have the information, now that you understand, what are you going to do? Because I can't ask you to do if you never knew.
Mm-hmm.
I can't ask you to comprehend if you were never informed.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I told you,
Yes, sir.
now that you heard, I need you to act.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful you guys are coming on the show. And this is an action to me. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for saving lives.
Thanks for having me. having us.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. And thank you for sharing your platform and giving us this opportunity, and for all the work that you continue to do to engage and inspire folks to get engaged. And thank you, Kelvin, because what you have done and the impact the mighty second district is making is really setting the bar. And I'm so excited and so proud to be in this area and having this opportunity to collaborate and work with you, because you have gotten all chapters on deck. I have never seen a group of individuals be so responsive. And let me tell you, Dr. Dyer, second district, that's probably going to be the group to take.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I have to.
These gentlemen are ready.
Wait, I think they're stepping kind of high. But,
It's the truth. You need to get something done.
yeah.
Mega men, they are here. So I'm excited. There's some really, really amazing things unfolding right now.
Me, and I'm thoroughly excited. You know, no matter how saddening news can be, depressing, we push on. Not because we just get over it, we take that with us.
That's
right? That's why we pull it along, we take it with us, and we go over that hill. We're like, you come with me, dragging, kicking, and screaming. We're taking our history with us, and we're pushing on. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer, and the 100 Black Men. We appreciate that organization as well for stepping up and getting it done.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer.
God bless, man.